Okay, thank you, Simon, and good morning, everyone. You probably have looked down your agenda for this morning's events and recognised things like Green Deal, feed-in tariffs, etc., and then came across something rather different called Site Surveyor. Now, it's a fair question if you're wondering what on earth it is, because officially today is the launch of Site Surveyor to the social housing community, so you're getting the first kind of dibs on this one effectively. So hopefully over the next 10 minutes or so I'll be able to explain to you exactly what Site Surveyor is, what some of its functions are, and how hopefully you will see that it can benefit yourselves, maybe some of your colleagues back at the office or other work contacts. Site Surveyor, what is it? Well, basically it's a free downloadable iPhone app which we've developed at Croftons in conjunction with 3 Sheep Limited, who are also doing the videoing today. They've done the technical development side of it. And essentially it was conceived to prepare photographic schedules of condition of buildings and other property sites. It basically allows you to take photographs of parts of buildings, might be defects that you want to highlight. Linked to that, you're able to do a voice recorded description of what the problem is or one of the features might be of that particular site. And you're also able to do a kind of manual text version of what that defect might be. Those 3 pieces of data are all linked together, and I'll hopefully make the point in a short while that that's actually quite key to why Site Surveyor can bring some advantages to you. Once you've actually been on site and got the data, whether it's photographs or the verbal descriptions, you can then email that back to whoever you like, basically. So you might have someone who's, I don't know, on the East Coast surveying a property today. Their office happens to be in Liverpool, not the easiest commute, but what they can do, they can actually send this data whilst they're on site and get it back to base quickly. So we're looking at saving people time, reducing transaction times, avoiding delays, frustration and cost. Site Surveyor, why did we do it? We're a firm of solicitors at the end of the day. Why would we want to develop an app for surveyors, apart from the fact that we're very nice people? Well, generally speaking, I know collectors have mentioned views on this already. I'm not going to go there right now. I'll save that one. Why did we do it? Well, part of my job, I've been involved in doing commercial leases for probably too long, about 15 years. And one of the things that we tend to do, say we're acting for a tenant company, they're taking a 10-year lease of an industrial depot or a warehouse. Now, unless it was a new build, there's no way on earth I wouldn't suggest to them that they don't get a photographic schedule of condition, they qualify, they limit their repairing obligations before they enter into that lease. Typically that's a job done by building surveyors. Now, unfortunately for building surveyors, I think they get a bit of a hard time because a lot of the time in these transactions, they get instructed right at the last minute, at which point they've got to schedule in the time to visit the building, they've got to head across there, get it done, back to the office, sort it all out. It adds to the delays at the end of a transaction where maybe the parties are already getting frustrated about how long things are taking. That kind of highlights some of the problem involved. I mean, surveyors will go on site, they'll typically go on with a digital camera, they might go with a dictaphone, they might go with a notepad as well. So they've got 3 separate data sources. You can see what can happen, obviously. Sometimes when they get back to base, having maybe surveyed 2-3 buildings in a day, let's be honest, one elevation of a building that you've never seen before that day can look very much like another. Get back to base, collating the different strands of information, not always the easiest. I've seen a lot of these over the years. One of my particular favourites was an office building over in Liverpool. Fantastic building, lovely glass atrium over the reception area. At least it would have been lovely if it didn't ship in an awful lot of water. So they went over there, took the photographic schedule of condition, got the internal scaffold up, took the photos of the damage to the walls where the water had come in, went back to the office. A few days later, I got the first draft of this schedule of condition. Picture 1, atrium. Description underneath, broken toilet. Borderline amusing on one level, but to the clients it was deeply frustrating because it added to delays, it added to costs, and basically the landlord wanted the tenant in and paying the rent, and the tenant was desperate to get in because it needed the extra space. So that was the problem. We had a look around the market to see what was available in terms of products to solve what seemed like a fairly obvious issue. And I spoke with a number of building surveyor contacts. And they said, no, we go with our camera and our dictaphone, that's what we do. And that's fine. I looked on the website for the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, thinking there's bound to be a solution here. I got as far as their online shop, kind of drilled down through the different sections, got to the building surveyors, parts, schedules of condition, and the one product I found was a £12.99 digital camera, which called me cynical, but I didn't see that as the entire solution. So, it was clear there was a bit of an innovation gap there. And so we discussed the idea internally at Croftons, also discussed it with some building surveyor colleagues, and got some very useful feedback as to what kind of features they might like to see in an app such as Site Surveyor that we were going on to develop. One of the key things that came across was that they wanted a solution that would link different areas of data, so the photographs, the voice recorded description, and also the manual typed description as well, to avoid problems like the atrium becoming the toilet, again, which they were quite embarrassing for them. And when we discussed this with the surveyors, their estimation was that we could actually save between 2 and 3 days of every transaction by having all of this information linked together at the outset and capable of being emailed, to take my example from the East Coast, back to base in Liverpool straight away. Now, those are quite key benefits when you've got a landlord who wants to rent from you, and when you've got a tenant who's absolutely desperate to get out of existing premises and to move into something bigger. So, Site Surveyor, what does it do? We're going to have a look at some screenshots from the app in just a moment, but just to run through some of the features that we've got on there. We've got a GPS site locator function. You might say, well, that's a bit gimmicky. Well, if you're surveying a site that's in rural Cumbria with very few landmarks that you can link it to, actually it's quite a handy feature to have. We've already said about being able to take a photographic record of the condition of the building, highlighting the defects. One of the issues that the building surveyors that we spoke to raised when we were looking into market research for this was, well, if you're using an iPhone, surely it's not going to be as good as my digital camera. Now, I'm not going to stand here potentially technical, but Stuart and Larry, who very much are technical, assure me and have since proved that actually the camera on the iPhone is phenomenally good. And so that was not a problem at all. We've obviously got the voice recording facility that I've mentioned, so once you've taken the image of the defect in the property, you can say, damage the lintel above the left window, or what happened. And those two pieces of data are linked, they are not going to come apart. And this is part of the beauty of it. It may be that you also want to put in some kind of manual text as part of your data collection as well, and similarly with that, you're able to link it all together. One of the key things, like I said already, is the time savings that this can generate. By virtue of the fact that the surveyor can be on site, you can email all of this stuff back to base. So it doesn't need that surveyor to actually drive all the way back and start collating stuff when actually they get back and they're facing about 100 emails because they've been out of the office for a while. Someone else can be getting on with that. The document can be produced, circulated by email, and we're generating a lot of time savings and saving a lot of frustration of clients. There's actually one other thing I've not put on the slide on there in terms of features that we've added, and I must confess when this was first suggested to me, I did think this is maybe a little bit on the gimmicky side, and Stuart is smiling wryly over there. It's a feature called Car Compass, and essentially what that does, it enables you to find your way back to your car, basically, from the property you've surveyed. I don't know, say you drive 200 miles to a town you've been to before, you park up on the 15th floor, or was it the second, of a multi-storey car park, and then you go off and do your survey, and you're not actually entirely sure how you get back to your car. You're very conscious that the parking is running out. It's not good. From the Car Compass, you can actually GPS locate your car. You can take a photograph of where your car is if you so wish, and use that as part of the giving you directions back to your car after you've done the survey. Not only that, but it actually, if you've paid up for 4 hours parking before you go on to your next job, say if you're up the cherry picker taking panoramic views of the asbestos roof, which isn't in quite such great condition after all, you can actually set an alarm on the app which will tell you however many minutes you want advance warning of when your parking is about to run out, so you can actually sort that out. And I'm now going to embarrass Stuart, and I have forewarned him about this, but I did think this was a bit gimmicky at first, but Stuart assures me that he's saved at least 2 car parking fines by using parking because, and in fairness, Stuart, that conversation was 3 months ago, so if you've not saved any more by now, I'd be quite surprised as well. Let's have a look at the screenshots themselves. I've just kind of put a couple on there. I mean, on the left, we've got all the details about the job information. So you'll save details of your property, you GPS locate it, you can put the details of the client name, it automatically comes up with the day the survey is done. Weather conditions may or may not be relevant, depending whether it's internal or external, or whether you've got the atrium I described earlier, which is probably relevant as well. On the right, we've got an overview of a kind of job in progress. My 12-year-old son is very keen to tell me that I seem to have some kind of technological allergy, and he's probably right. So what we tried to do in developing this was to keep it intuitive, keep it really straightforward so that even I can use it. And essentially, you take your photo, you then get a chance to approve the photo or retake it if you're not happy with it, do your voice description if you want to do that, and then do the written description. Which then, once you've got that information, brings you to this particular screen. You see the traffic lights on the right. Essentially, whilst you're capturing the data on site, assuming that you have internet connection where you are, the data continually uploads to the cloud-based server whilst you're going around taking additional photographs. If you're on a red light on the traffic system, nothing's uploading at the moment. If you're on amber, it's a work in progress, it's in the process of uploading. And if you hit green, good news, everything's in the cloud, saved. You can take as many photos as you want. One of the concerns that the building surveying community expressed to us was, well, look, this could be good for small jobs, but it ain't going to work when I've got a 600,000 square foot warehouse that needs about 400 photographs. But actually, the very fact that stuff is continually uploading, it needn't be a problem. So we were able to feed back to those surveyors saying, look, we took on board what you said, and we've built a solution into Site Surveyor. As I say, once everything is uploaded into the cloud, at that stage you can email all that information directly from site, frankly, to whoever you want. You might send it to the client, you might send it to your tenant, you might send it back to your office, to your lawyer, basically anyone. There's no limit to how many people the information can be sent through to. Basically, once the email arrives, it arrives in the form of a schedule. It will have the photographs on it, it will have the voice recording, which can be transcribed if that's appropriate, and it'll have any written information. Again, with a photo, voice recording, and manual text all linked together, so there aren't any of these problems with collating the information. I did say that the device would upload information to the cloud whilst you have internet connection, so that begs the obvious question: what happens when you're in an area? My office, to take a rather irritating example, where the internet connection has its moments, let's say. It's not a problem. You can continue to capture the data on photographs and the voice recordings, and then once you've got the app up and running again in an area where you have got internet connection, then the uploading to the cloud will occur. Once it's completed and you've got the green light on there, you can email it through to the recipients. So, the purpose of Site Surveyor. 2 basic things. I've kind of covered them already. To save clients time. I mean, that is the biggie in terms of being able to email stuff from the actual side of the property itself to wherever, to whomever you want to send it to. We're taking days off transaction times, much to the pleasure of landlords who want to rent and tenants who want into occupation. Also, looking to save clients money. Preparing photographic schedules of condition, professional service. It's not cheap. By using this app, actually, we can cut down massively the administrative burden of doing these schedules. And so a lot of the overheads which traditionally went with preparing a schedule simply disappear. So it can make things cheaper for you. In some cases, it might make the difference between you saying, well, ideally I wanted the schedule, but there's no way I'm paying X £100 for it. And say, well, I've got the app here, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go around the property with my respective tenant, sort this out, email it to ourselves, print it off, sign it off, job done. The only cost, your time. Why is it relevant to that? I suppose that's the key question you might be asking. So I wanted to share with you a few examples of where I think Site Surveyor could be used in the renewables sector. First one, feasibility studies for installation of PV panels. Obviously, we've already heard about the need to check out the structural integrity of roofs before panels are installed. The Site Surveyor lends itself perfectly to that. Rather than having someone going over with a digital camera, a phone, possibly a notebook, if it's not too windy, can go with one device, basically record all the data there. If you've got an internet connection, they can email it back to the office, onto the next house. Nice, quick, easy, does what it says. Next one, information gathering for wind turbine sites. Just recently we've been looking to work with a company who is a new company looking to start setting up about 200 plus leases over the next couple of years for single wind turbine sites. Now, by their very nature, a lot of these places are in remote locations, so again we have the issue of the drive out to record the data, the drive back before you start collating all the data. And in some cases, because they're not near anything recognisable, it was a field in Cumbria, but which one type of thing. Got a GPS connection on there, so actually that's going to help enormously. I understand from speaking with these people that for some of these sites there's quite an amazing amount of competition. Actually, you might have 3-4 companies all after the same sites because they know they can do very well with feed-in tariffs. Well, if your surveyor is on site and can capture all that information, you can get it emailed back to base, to the surveyor, to the lawyers to get on with the searches, to anyone else. You find yourself, I don't know, a day and a half, 2 days head start on the competition. So if you get ahead, you need to stay ahead, and then you stand a much better chance of actually securing that site. This one's probably relevant obviously for the social housing. The schedules of condition on handover of rental property. Again, there might be decisions to make as to whether or not it's cost effective to do a schedule at all. Go around with Site Surveyor before your tenant goes in, record the information, get it emailed off, printed off, signed off, job done. Nice and simple. Phased inspections of new developments. Go around, check the snagging works, say there's something you're not happy with. When you're on site, just email it through to Bait or another and say, look, here's the problem, what do you suggest? Get the ball rolling a lot quicker, really. So again, we can save time, save delays and save additional costs. We've already heard about the ground mounted arrays just now. Again, that would be relevant use of Site Surveyor in that scenario. I get the, how shall I say, the dubious pleasure of an email pretty much daily as and when someone downloads Site Surveyor. It's been available in the App Store for a couple of weeks now, even though today is the formal launch. Sadly, that email arrives about 10 past midnight every night, and I've learned very quickly to switch my phone off before going to bed. But it's actually been quite interesting seeing the kinds of people and the kind of companies who are downloading this. We had one last week, it's a tile installation company. I was thinking, well, we developed this for property surveyors, and I'm thinking, well, actually, it's brilliant for that, because if you were going to survey, I don't know, a big room because you have to do a tile installation, you can take the photos, you can establish whether or not it needs additional plastering or whatever it requires. You can record details of the dimensions, and whilst you're on the site, this tile company is probably emailing through to the warehouse saying we need so many tiles, emailing it through to the fitting team saying this is your job, are you there next Tuesday? Again, it's just cutting out a load of delays which are frankly unnecessary. I'm not pretending that these examples, or that particular example, are an exhaustive list. I mean, to my mind, one of the beauties of a day like today is we've got kind of sector leaders here, probably with all ideas about how I could use that when we get back to the office, or maybe have colleagues and contacts to use it. Please feel free. We'd be delighted to hear from you if you've got ideas about how this can be rolled out into different areas. It's very new to us, so we really are all ears. It's very much the development phase of things at the moment as to how we can best serve you in the future. I winced at this one, having Colette's comments earlier about solicitors. So little surprise here. It's an app developed by solicitors, and actually, it's currently available as a free download. And we've deliberately made that decision because basically we want people to get used to using it. It is quite different to how people have done things. And we want the feedback really to how we can make it better. This is very much the beginning of the story on this rather than the end. At the moment it is only available on iPhone, and we'll doubtless get feedback about other platforms which might be possibilities for the future. But also we want to hear about what features might be added, or in fact we might turn around and say, well actually we really don't need that feature, we've got it in now. we're very open to feedback as to how we can make this best work for the intended users. So, in conclusion, I hope I've been able to explain, albeit briefly, what Site Surveyor is about and how it might hopefully assist you and your colleagues and contacts. In terms of next steps, I'd encourage you, if you have an iPhone, to download and use Site Surveyor. Perhaps you know other people who could benefit from using it as well. Please feel free to tell them about it. And in terms of feedback, we really do value that. We've had some good stuff in the consultation process today when we're developing it, but we're looking to bring in more information. So this can frankly be a advice which gets better and better. So many thanks for your time.